What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Weekly Dose of Dano TV with your host here, Dano, giving you the best content that you're going to find on the internet. I promise you, if you stay for 10 minutes, you're going to stay for the entire episode because we have the legendary David Goodman here, who is going to be giving us the golden nuggets on what it takes to break into the acting industry, in the directing industry, and all the golden nuggets that we need to go through life in our personal lives to make sure that we are living every day with joy, peace, and positivity. So, David, what do you have to say to the Positivity Posse before we get started today?
You know, the one thing that has been drilled in me since I was a kid is to never give up. Never give up. One of the things I'm working on, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, down the line, is a series called Winning Season. And the one thing that I'm very much clear on is that everybody can experience their own winning season. You just don't give up because it could be right there around the corner. So, yeah. So I'm happy to be here. I'm excited about being here. Excited about, interviewing with you. We've known each other for quite some time, and then this is the first time I've had an opportunity to be on your show. So I'm extremely, extremely humbled and excited. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And what did I tell you guys? I told you he's the epitome of what it takes in order to succeed in this lifetime. And David, that's why I wanted you to come on the show. It is a little bit overdue, like you said, since we have known each other for some time, but I'm going to redirect that and change that to say it is happening right when it's meant to be. So thank you so much to the Positivity Posse for tuning in. If you're watching on the replay or if you're watching live, we appreciate all of your positive energy. And now let's get started with another episode of Weekly Dose of Dano TV. Let's get it, everybody. Let's get it, everybody. Thank you so much for being here for another episode of Weekly Dose of Dano TV. And I don't know if I mentioned this to all of my Positivity Posse, but we have been growing so fast in our numbers and in our support for one another, because last month alone, we had over 80,000 viewers, and that is a new record for Weekly Dose of Dano TV, but it wouldn't be possible without you and all of our good energy coming together to pour into ourselves, right? Because as we all know, this is not a passive experience, as you guys are already lighting it up in the comment section. I appreciate all of you guys for doing that. But like I said, it's not only because you're supporting me, but you're supporting yourself. Because as we all know, when we are coming together as a group or just showing up for ourselves, then these are the little actions. They're not so little, but I'm just going to say these are the little actions that we need to do in all areas of our lives, right? Because even though you are showing up for me, I'm just a reflection of you, and this is a version of you showing up for yourself. So congratulations, and I really do appreciate every single one of you so much. But as you all know, we have to have our time a little bit for the Positivity Posse, just so we can talk about some things that I've been learning or may have happened in my life. And I just want to share it with you because you may resonate with this now, or it may happen to you a little bit in the future, or it may have happened to you in the past. So you can say, yeah, Dano, I agree with that 100%. You're so right. Or no, Dano, you're an idiot. You have no idea what you're talking about. But you are entitled to have whatever opinion it is that you want. And that's why I love having this every single week, because we can come together, have a safe space so we can bounce ideas off of each other. And I learn just as much as you guys learn from me, and as we learn from our guests as well. Because like I'm telling you, David is the man, and he is just one of the epitomes of what it takes to be successful. And we're going to jump into that in a little bit. But we have Christopher Caston saying, hola, thank you. I appreciate that. Nice shirt, Dan. Thank you so much. I appreciate wonderful comments as well. We got the fire emojis. We got the hashtag positivity posse. We have the energy flowing right now, and I love it. So today we're going to be talking about the idea of desiring something. And we should be a little bit careful when it comes to desiring whatever it is that we want in our lives. Because when we desire something, most people do it from the angle that they are lacking whatever it is that they're desiring, right? Because when somebody says, oh man, I'm really longing for this, or I'm desiring, a larger amount of money, or my significant person that I want in my life, or maybe it's that job position that you want something better. I guess it goes back, right? You want that because you want something that pays more, you want more flexibility. All of these things, you are not separate from them. You already have them. And that is the intention or the way of thinking that we should go about it, right? Not from the place of separation, that it's already inside each and every one of us. And that the only reason that we want it is, number one, because the feeling of what it's going to have when we do have it, right? Because when you do get that significant person or that large sum of money, then you're going to experience happiness, pleasure, joy, and all those great emotions. But you don't have to wait to receive that thing that you are desiring to experience those emotions right now, right? There have been plenty of times where maybe somebody has, given you a smile at a coffee shop, or they paid for the toll in front of you and you were able to get a free toll. I don't know. There's so many different things that you've probably experienced, or we have experienced, that we have had, experienced that happiness once. And if we can do it and experience once, it can happen over and over and over again. So as we all know with the law of attraction, when we are vibrating at that place of, completion or already having it, then it has no choice but to give us exactly what it is that we want in our lives, right? So if we understand that we do have it, we're not separate from it. And it just makes it easier to manifest. And, that's just a shortcut for you. You can still get whatever it is that you want and desire, but that is just my shortcut for you guys, and to know that it can happen quicker, and that illusion of time doesn't have to happen 5 years down the road. It could happen as soon as tomorrow, if that's what if that's what you believe, and that's how you want to believe, right? Because there's some people who need to learn the hard way, which is fine. If that's what you want to do, it's totally up to you. But I would much rather experience peace, bliss, joy, and happiness along the way of this journey that we call life. Because if we can avoid that unnecessary suffering and that illusion of suffering, then it just makes life that much easier for us, because there's so many things that we can do and focus on that won't, that could lead us down that path of, fear, anger, and all that negative stuff. This is what I think and what I've experienced that we need to do. One more thing too, in addition to that, just have faith that it will happen. As David mentioned earlier, tomorrow might be that day that the thing that you want will manifest into your life. And you never know. It can be tomorrow, it can be 5 minutes, but whatever time it takes, just know that you have unwavering faith that it will happen that way. And the only reason that you are desiring that thing is because, number one, when you have that faith, it's going to happen. But number two, you have that excitement to life that when it does happen, you're like, see, I told you, I knew it was going to happen. And it just makes it that much more fun and enjoyable as well. So like I said, number one, understand that you're not apart from the thing that you want. And number two, have unwavering faith that it will happen and manifest that way. So now we have to bring on David Goodman, because I know he's just going to contribute to the great positive energy that we're all feeling right now. And his story is nothing short of a miracle, and really something that we all need to really dive deep into, because his story, had he not gone down that path, he's going to tell it a little bit better than I am. But there was a point where he had to put his dreams and aspirations on hold, but it was his decision for him to go back to chase those dreams that everything has unfolded so beautifully and very successfully for David as well. So everybody, do what you got to do to welcome David onto the show, because we have a lot that we need to talk about in such a short amount of time. Put some fire emojis, heart emojis, or just, say welcome to the show. Do whatever you have to do to welcome David Goodman onto the show. David, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. This is awesome.
See, because you know what it is.
And so I love it, man. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And this is really, really awesome. So let's start out with that really quick. Was I just spewing a whole bunch of nonsense, or was there some degree of truth to what I shared with everybody?
There's a lot of truth to what you shared with everyone. I thought it was great. Yeah, it's, and it's not easy, sometimes, because everyone has their own stuff. I mean, I struggled myself with, I think a lot of us have desires, but one thing I've always struggled with is, with my desires is, even though I had them, I struggled with what I wanted and what I felt I deserved, you know, and it's been a process throughout my life to get to the point where, and I still struggle with it, even today, but to recognize my own self-worth and to admit to myself that it's okay. You know what I mean? That it's okay to have these things, or to get certain things, or to receive certain things, because you know what? I am worth it. You know what I mean? I am worth it. I believe that life is a balance between, we have to take care of ourselves, but we also have to take care of others,
Mhm.
and I think it's a healthy balance that we have, so we don't fall into a life of just being a martyr, but, which sometimes could also lead to this self-righteousness, but also to a life where we're not just consumed just of our own stuff. It's a nice, healthy balance. And when we live that way, I think we live a very fulfilling life. So, no, a lot of things that you were talking about was great, man. It was great.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, just to see everybody, I know what I'm talking about. So that's why we have been running for so long here on Weekly Dose of Dano TV. But David, one more point before we really dive into your stories, that you're so right? We have to fill our own cups first before we go and help everybody else. Because let's say if we are sick and we're bedridden, and we have somebody else that is in the same state that we're in, how is it that we're supposed to go out and help them get out of whatever situation they're in if we're in the same situation or we haven't taken care of ourselves? It's really kind of something that maybe a lot of people will find to be, could be interpreted as selfish, but we need to do that in order to help everybody else. So if we're on our game, if we're doing our best and we're doing what we need to do, of course, along the journey, we can share what has been working for us. And we don't have to be at that pinnacle or at that prime of our, career or personal life to help other people along the way. But as long as we're coming together, giving each other positivity, encouragement, and the golden nuggets that we need to survive in this world, then that's really what, if that's the best that we can do at that point, then let's keep going on that right track. And it could be something as small as a compliment, something nice to say. Y'all already know. Y'all already know. So now, David, let's talk about your story and your life's journey, and let's take it back to the very beginning, because you are a very successful actor, director, and everything that you touched has turned to gold. But that all started in the 6th grade for you when you went to go watch a play. And I want you to tell us a little bit about that experience, but specifically about that experience is, what did you see during that play that you said, this is what I have to do for the rest of my life?
Yeah, when I was young, I struggled when I was a teenager, not growing up with my mom at the time. I mean, it had its effects, and just a lot about how I perceived myself. And so I struggled as a teenager. I struggled as a youth. Didn't like myself. I struggled with my self-esteem. So, and there was times, quite frankly, where I thought about taking my own life. I mean, I remember vividly standing in my room, looking at my wrist, just wondering whether or not, I need to continue on. But when I was in the 6th grade, I was at Hatch Middle School, and it was in February, Black History Month, and Freedom Theater came over and did a presentation at the school. And I'll never forget, I was sitting there in the middle of the audience, and I was watching the performance. And those performers, they looked so free. They looked so happy, so free. And I think a lot of that had to do with, number one, they were doing what they loved, but somehow that touched my life. And when I was watching them, I said to myself, that's what I want to do. That's what I want. I want to be a performer. And from that point on, it became this journey of becoming an artist, and it wasn't easy, but yeah, and that's where it started. It started back when I was in the 6th grade.
Yeah, I love that. And the fact that you were able to follow your dreams and your passions, and to look back and say, wow, this has been very successful and a journey filled with ups and downs. But you can look back on your sixth grade self and say, David, we did it. We absolutely amazing. So, but it wasn't always like that. So let's flash forward a little bit as well. I remember when you sent me and when we were talking before, you said that you actually had to put your hopes and your dreams and your career on hold for a little bit. So, can you talk a little bit about why you had to put it on hold and why you had to put it on hold, but what inspired you to come back and say, you know what, I have to follow it?
When I was, I've been in and out of the arts. And when I was in sixth grade, I did plays at school, and then went to high school and did, plays in high school. And my plan was, when I graduated, I wanted to go to college and pursue the arts, even in college. But right when I graduated high school, my stepfather at the time, he left. And it's funny, it's one of those defining moments in my life. I'll never forget. It was 1983. It was in a July on a Tuesday. And he came down in the morning and just said he was done. And I was like, done? What do you mean you're done? He was like, yeah, I'm done. And he left. He left. So him being the breadwinner in the house at the time, it really left my family in a bad position. So being the oldest, I have an older sister, but I was the second oldest. I had to go into work. I went to work. I found a job. I worked several different jobs, but I had to support my family. We had to eat, had to pay rent, had to pay bills. So I went into the workforce, and I wasn't able to go to college, and so that kind of put my dreams on hold because I had to support my family.
Yeah. So, all right, that's a perfect place to start because I think there was another part of that story that you were going to go into, and that's the one that we're all dying to know about. What sparked you? Because I think a lot of people can relate to that, to say, man, I got to pay these bills. Like, if I go and spend the time to really follow my dreams and my hopes and my aspirations, how am I going to support myself? So tell us, in your personal experience, what pushed you or what motivated you to say, you know what, I know that the world may look this way and I got to support my family, but my dreams are just so loud and clamoring at me that I have to get back to it.
It's interesting. This is the power of having a great partner in your life, because it was my wife who actually reminded me of my dream, and so I had been working for a while, and actually I had a pretty successful career in, of all things, telemarketing. I found this telemarketing job, and I was actually pretty good on the phones, and I rose through the ranks, and I was doing pretty well. But I met actually, I had a chance to go back into theater. I was taking night classes, doing drama, doing theater at Freedom Theater. As a matter of fact, I had enrolled there, and I figured, well, I may not be able to do theater full time, but maybe I could do it just a little bit, And I think I'm so glad that this thought was always in my head, just to stay in the orbit of my dream. I may not be able to be immersed in it 100%, but at least stay in the orbit, stay close to it somehow. So I enrolled back at Freedom Theater, and it was there that I met my wife, And long story short, her and I started dating, and eventually we got married. And I was still working in telemarketing, and I was just very unhappy. I was making pretty decent money, but I was just unhappy. I've never been a money motivated person. Don't get me wrong. I like having money.
Yeah. Makes it easier.
But yeah, it does. But it hasn't been my motivating factor. Being happy, doing what I love, is something that motivates me. And I was becoming very disenfranchised working in the corporate field. So, I shared that with my wife, and she was like, look, honey, we got enough. We can afford for you to go back to go to school for a couple of years. Because I had dreams. I wanted to be a teacher, I wanted to be an actor, and I wanted to be a DJ. And to this day, I can tell you I've done all three.
Nice.
But, she said, well, look, we got enough money. You can go back to school, get your teaching degree, and start teaching. And I thought the things that I could teach is like theater and history, because I enjoy history. So I went back to school, and it was while I was in school, my wife, she said, you know what? You've got this look. You should get headshots taken and send them out. And I was like, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
She's like, look, you should give it a shot and see if you could do like some video work. So I said, okay. I got my headshots taken, sent them out, and immediately I started getting phone calls. Agents started reaching out because they wanted to represent me. And I settled on this one agent out in Malvern, PA, and she sent me, as I think that day, sent me out on an audition, and I booked the job.
Wow.
And, yeah, it was amazing. So that's what started happening. I started booking more and more jobs, so much so that it started to conflict with my school. And it was my wife that said, she said, you know what? You've always had this dream to be an actor. The work is here. What are you going to do? So I decided, I said, you know what? I'm going to take the jump. And I went right into acting and haven't looked back since.
Wow. And you know, all of it obviously is so amazing, but the part that sticks out to me is, like you said here, you got to stay in the orbit of your dream. And just the fact that you were able to do that and to have the confidence to say, all right, let me just start out from the very beginning. I'll go to acting classes and then we'll see what happens from there. That is what starts to happen in your life, David, as you accrued so much great success. I've experienced the same thing, but you have to start somewhere, and don't be afraid to start from the bottom and actually bet on yourself, because as we see in the very successful careers of everybody that we see in the United States or globally, they bet on themselves to say, you know what, no matter what happens, I know that this is going to work out for me, and I'm going to do and give myself the time and the energy to bet on myself, and we'll see what happens. And that's why, you know, we want to talk about these things, because I know there could have been so many limiting beliefs, David, that you had specifically, that you just said, you know what, forget all of that. I'm going to bet on myself. Let's just see what happens and look at everything has transpired so far. So now we have to hear a quick word from our sponsors. And after we come back from the sponsors, we're going to dive deep into your professional career to hear and see all of the great works that you've done in front of the camera and behind the camera as well. And I just want to share with you guys some of the comments. We have Lou says, that's awesome. You are your own best advocate for sure. We have Jose, thank you so much for commenting, and all these other great comments as well that we can't get to it all because we have to keep moving forward and to really dive deep into David's story. So here we're going to hear all about great success and how they can help you and your child with SAT prep, or just being overall, you know, monster. Not really monster, I don't want to use that, but overall, you know, successful person inside of the classroom as well. So here's great success. Thank you so much for sponsoring Weekly Dose of Dano TV. And don't go anywhere, because we have some more golden nuggets that we have to share from you after a word for great success.
At Grade Success, it's our job to make sure that your child succeeds in school regardless of the subject or grade level. Our tutors are trained professionals who know how to promote learning and encourage results. Whether you are looking for help with SAT, ACT prep, private and group tutoring, K-3 reading programs for your child, or educational consulting and college counseling, here at Grade Success, we can help you find the right answer. Visit gradesuccess.com to learn more about our in-person and online program options. Grade Success, where your child's success is our business.
That was a word from Great Success. Thank you so much for sponsoring Weekly Dose of Dano TV. And we have to get right back into David's story, because now we're going to talk about his professional career, which, David, I know that you have had so many high tier and high quality positions in some of the most famous, you know, television and movie scenes in the industry. So you've been in, you know, Rocky VI, The Wire, Law and Order. So if there's something that I'm missing that's really, you know, up there, please fill us in. But what was the most rewarding one, or your favorite, you know, out of all the high quality productions that you've been, and why was it your favorite?
It's a great question. It's kind of a difficult one to answer, but let me just say this one thing. I fully acknowledge the fact that staying in the orbit of something that you want to do is tough. It is not easy. There's a process that I live by. It's called human revolution, and mine is always to fight. Not, you know, sometimes this fear, this uncertainty, it's there. Sometimes it doesn't go away, but I always fight to not let it defeat me, you know, and that's been my battle, you know, is to not be defeated by it. And it's not an easy battle. Sometimes it's hard, But the key is, like I mentioned up in the beginning, is to not give up. That's what I think has helped me stay in that orbit. It's not easy, but I just want to acknowledge that so people don't think, oh, well, just change your mindset, positive thinking. All that is great, but it is a battle. It is a battle. And especially when you're struggling with personal issues, it's not easy to do. But, if you can find yourself with a good circle of people, whatever faith you believe in that you can hang on to, all that plays a key role into not being defeated by those fears. As far as my favorite thing, one of my, I just did several. The Wire was a great experience. Working on 2 seasons of The Wire was just wonderful. It was a wonderful cast, wonderful crew. I think one of my favorite, was I did Mayor of Easttown a couple of years ago with Kate Winslet. And that was a lesson. That was a lesson, watching her work. She's an Academy Award winner. Kate Winslet is Academy Award winner. And just watching her work was really a pleasure. We only did one scene together, but that was just a school about acting and your approach to it and preparation and things like that. So that had to have been one of my best. I think the most fun I had was just recently. They're filming a TV series in Philadelphia called Task, and I was able to get a role on that, and that was good because all that stuff that I learned over the years, I was able to really apply, when I shot my scenes for that. So, but I think Mayor of Easttown had to be my favorite because that was a lesson that I'll never forget.
Yeah, and that's beautiful because, like you said, just the fact that you had that support system and learning from other people in that field really has, springboarded you to be the best that you can be. And I like the fact that you do learn from other people, right? Because I know when it comes to maybe, in any industry, you shouldn't look at people as like they're all the way over there and I'm here and there's a really big gap. You're able to take those lessons and learn from them to improve on your own craft as well. And okay, that was the, best and the happiest, but what about, do you have any roles that you played in that were very unusual and you're like, wow, this is the weirdest role that I've ever had?
I played a drug dealer one time. This is for theater production. It was so out of my wheelhouse because that's just not like the kind of dude that I am. But it was definitely a stretch, for me to be able to create that role. And I'll never forget when I did that. When I played the character, I was all garbed up, and just had the whole feeling, the whole vibe. One of my co-stars looked at me. She was like, "Man, you look sexy." And I was like, okay.
She said, cut the cameras. Yeah.
Got to be a drug dealer to look sexy. Okay. Yeah. But I think that was the most unusual role. That was definitely out of my wheelhouse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Janet was like, drug dealer? Yeah.
Yeah. We gotta find that eventually too, because that's something that I want to see, just to see how well you're able to portray it. But yeah, and these are all the things that were in front of the camera. And obviously now you've transitioned to behind the camera. And I want to talk to you or ask you about that decision, because I know when we were talking about in the pre-show is that there has been really a gap in content or media that is not really inspiring, or they don't really have, purpose in their mission involved in that content that they produce. So is that one of the reasons that you decided to go behind the camera, or was it something that you were just like, well, all right, the next logical thing, if I can do it in front of it, then I can do it behind it? What was the thought process in transitioning?
It's a great question. The reason why I decided to go fully behind the camera, I delved into, I've been editing for several years because I work with a nonprofit organization called IDEA, which is the Institute for the Development of Education in the Arts. And it's located in Camden, New Jersey. And actually
Camden, shout out Camden.
It's my hometown,
Yep, same here.
That's it. I've lived in Whitman Park, East Camden, Parkside, you name it, bounced around. But yeah, we're located. It was founded by Cynthia Primus, and we're about to celebrate our 30th anniversary next year. But for 30 years, we've been servicing young people throughout the city of Camden, offering training in the media arts. Yeah, shout out to Camden. That's right. But since with this program, a lot of our program, we had to it's always good to document what we do. So we were gifted a camera. So I would take little videos here and I would edit them. But I never thought about really establishing my own business. And it actually was 2020, the killing of George Floyd, which really motivated me. Because a lot of what you just said, Daniel, you're certainly right. That's exactly why I started this. I was really moved by the killing of George Floyd. Particularly, I was disturbed by the dehumanization of him. And I was angry just like so many other people were. As a matter of fact, I felt like breaking some stuff, but I knew that wouldn't create value. So I was really soul searching, like, what could I do to create value? And I had this skill, or I was very much aware of the power of media. So I said, you know what? I want to establish a production company that can create content to get people to think differently. Now, to get there, I have a mentor in life. He passed away in this past November. I'm a Buddhist. I've been practicing Buddhism since I was 10 years old. And, you know, in that my practice, again, I had a mentor, and he wrote this guidance where he talked about the importance of the next 10 years from 2020 to 2030. 2030, interestingly, is the organization of lay believers in the Buddhist practice that I practice began back in 1930, and we're coming up on the centennial in 2030. So he wrote this guidance back in 2020 that talked about the next 10 years. Through the victory of our human revolution, we can enact a powerful change in society, because my life is not separate from society. The two are not mutually exclusive. I really look at the victory of my life really plays a key role in the victory of society. So I was like, you know what? My victory will be then that I'm going to be successful. I'm going to create this business where I can create content to get people to think differently. But I didn't know where to start, right? So I was having this conversation with a buddy of mine, and we were just talking about our lives, and somehow the fact that I didn't know my dad. He was like, he found it kind of interesting that I was the kind of person I was, given the background that I had. And so we talked about it, and I said, you know what? It's interesting. There's this myth about Black fathers that they're just not present. And so even though mine left, I still never had this feeling like Black men didn't take care of their kids. So we started to delve into that, and then the light hit me. Wow, that's where I can start. Because if you look at it, it's the kind of tough relationship that Black men have with society is resulted in the killing of George Floyd. This sort of profiling or this sort of bias that they have about Black men led, I believe, partly into how they perceived him and how they treated him. So I said, you know what? If people don't see you as a human being, it makes sense to treat people the way that he was treated. So if I can show Black men in a good, positive, loving light, then it's not an unreasonable ask or expectation to have for people to see them that way in other parts of society. Because the truth is, and I did some research, I did a lot of research about Black men and fatherhood. Black men are just, if not more present in the lives of their kids than most other ethnic groups that are out there. This is not to say that there aren't gaps in society, because there are. Fatherless children is an issue across the board. But for it to be a Black issue is where I took issue with. Because if that's the pervasive thought that Black men are irresponsible, they don't take care of their kids, then you see them that way in other aspects of society. So if I could show them differently, then maybe, especially in times of conflict, maybe it'll create a pause. And that's all you need, a moment of pause. Because Black men are killed, without that pause. But if someone can think, this guy may be a dad, he could be a father, he could be this, he could be that, it's enough pause that could probably save a life or have a different outcome.
Yeah. And
that's what I decided to do. I'm going to do a documentary about Black fathers.
Yeah, and I love that too. I just want to share with here. Christopher mentioned as well. He is practicing Buddhism as well. He says he's a Korean Zen, And then Jeanette says, wow, very deep content, David. Thank you for sharing. Great way of showing that moment of pause. And yeah, I love the fact that you are doing that, because the power of media is so real, whether we realize it or not, right? Because that could be the decision of somebody actually going to jail or not going to jail because of the way that they have been framed to, the jury, but to other people as well. That might be the difference to say, wow, this guy actually did it, didn't do it, or how people are treated if they're going through that exact, instance or that situation. And then when they're outside of that, then they can receive a lot of hate or criticism. And that could be with anything, right? Because you see like sports stars, even if somebody, actually did the thing that they were accused of or not, just the fact of how they are portrayed in the media will result in problems outside of that. And David, I know that for you specifically, it was about Black fathers. And we are going to show a little bit about your work here on Weekly Dose of Dano TV. So everybody, here is just a little bit of what we can expect when we go to see the Black Fatherhood directed, edited, and everything done here by the wonderful, legendary David Goodman. And here it is, everybody, just a quick glimpse.
I realized that at an early age that's a choice. You can choose to be there, or you could choose to not be there. People can use all the excuses that they want. I didn't have a father, so that's why I'm not there. It's a cop-out. It's an excuse. Just like I said, I didn't have no idea what I was doing, but I made the choice to know that I was going to be there regardless of whatever happened.
I guess the fact that I didn't have the father love, I guess. I mean, I don't know if I really worried about that. I just knew that I had to be there. I mean, whatever there was.
The importance of fatherhood in people's lives is key, right? And but there's a balance, at least for me, that is important to demonstrate, to show. And I don't mean gender balance. I don't necessarily mean like role balance, but like this fatherhood, like balance. And I don't have the words to unpack it, but the importance to me, I think about like balance. And what are the number of things that our young people are receiving day after day after day? This is not commentary on social media. This is not commentary on music. This is just about what we are all inundated with, right? With zero balance.
The love of a father is essential. The love of a father is vulnerability. There is the word there, vulnerability. And it's a hard spot to be in, because here you got to be the king of the castle, but at the same time, you got to be understanding and yielding, and you got to be the type of person that is able to pick them up, brush their knees off, and, keep them moving in the right direction. And it's hard.
I mean, because
So everybody, that's just a little bit of a glimpse of what we can expect to see Black fatherhood, the otherhood, as David is portraying and pushing inside of a world that may depict something that's otherwise. So thank you so much, David, for doing that. We have Lou that says that's deep 100%. It is because you are going in there and you're tackling some of the hard issues that may be difficult for us to unpack as, a civilization. And I think one of the things as well for that gentleman that says he doesn't really have the words for it, I think, the idea of masculine and feminine energy that we have in each and every one of us might be something that he could possibly look into going further, because we all have that innate, qualities in every one of us. But it's about really diving deep and having this discussion that David is bringing to light. So David, what can you give us some details about it? When could we expect it to come out, or give us some we need some more information.
Absolutely. Well, funding is always a challenge, and I'm currently, applying for grants to be able to finish the post-production part of it. I got to go back and get some B-roll, but my goal is to be able to put it out in the first quarter of 2025. So right now it's in the post-production phase. There's still some more B-roll that I want to get to finish telling the story, but I'm looking to finish it up in the first quarter of 2025.
Beautiful. And is it going to be like an hour long? What's the time length for it?
Yeah, it's going to be about an hour long. Maybe there's so much content. Actually, I've been encouraged to think about it in terms of a docu-series. because out of all the people that I've interviewed, there's so many different aspects of fatherhood. I think the one thing that the one through line that I want to get through to people is that Black men innately, like you said, Daniel, they have this piece about them that knows it's important to be a good father. That's why when you look at all the people that I've interviewed, it's a cross section. Some of them knew their fathers, some of them didn't. Some had great fathers. One of the guys came from he was adopted, and he never knew his parents. But so it's a cross section. But the one through line is that they all knew that being a father was important, regardless of what kind of relationship they had with their dad. And that's the piece that I want to get across about, especially Black men, So, but yeah, it's going to be about an hour long. It might be a little bit longer, but right now I'm targeting about an hour.
Beautiful. Well, please, we need to hear more about that. So if you want to share when that's ready with this, maybe you can come back on to do like an unveiling or, a watch party or something here on Weekly Dose of Dano, or just something to promote the hype, because we want to help change whatever narrative that may not be serving to the best of whatever group of people. But this one is, Black fatherhood. So whatever we can do to help, please reach out to us. And then we also have one more thing, because we have to hear another word from our sponsor, our second sponsor. But Jeanette says, how about interviewing the kids who have been fatherless and maybe putting another piece to that? Is it something that you would think about, or not really?
Absolutely. I mean, I think all voices to the story are important. And I think it's important to tell all sides of it, so people can get, because I think, hearing from fatherless kids, we're starting to see more things on TV now where they're talking about the importance of fatherhood, which is really good. And I will be the first to say, I think men in general, regardless of what race, men in general have to make sure that we're stepping up, that we're doing, the work to take care of our kids, because it has devastating effects when we're not around. I think interviewing fatherless children would be great.
Beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing that idea, Jeanette. And now we have to hear a word from It Takes a Village Housing, which they're helping the women and the children in the city of Camden as well, which is awesome, because you guys are both tag teaming some of the most important issues that I think stem from society, right? And that's if we don't have a great upbringing, or, everything that's going on inside our household isn't wonderful and full of love, then I think that's a big reason why things are the way we have them today. So thank you, David, for doing that. And thank you to It Takes a Village Housing for sponsoring Weekly Dose of Dano TV, and to be that voice of change that we need now more than ever. And here it is, everybody, a word from It Takes a Village Housing.
Takes a village about keeping our families together.
God bless this organization.
Thank you so much for being here, to my Positivity Posse and to the sponsors for the show, which was Great Success and It Takes a Village Housing. We appreciate you so much for supporting the dream and the vision that we have here on Weekly Dose of Dano, and for helping push positive content out into the world, just like David has been doing with Humanity Pictures as well. But right now, we're just going to take a little bit of time to talk about maybe some extra lessons or ideas that David has gone through that he wants to share with everybody as well. So David, there's so many things that you have learned in your life, but specifically when it comes to acting, or maybe it's been directing it or filming, what has been the most interesting thing that you've learned about yourself while going through either one of those, industries, or maybe one of them? What is just like, wow, I had no idea that that was a part of me or in me, and I just learned so much from it.
That's a great question. It's interesting. One of the I was just having a conversation with two guys that work with me, with one of they're like interns that work with me with one of my big clients in Philly. And I was sharing with them that the most important thing is to do the work. You got to do the work, and to not give up, because your winning season, like I mentioned earlier on, could be right around the corner. But it's so important to do the work and to become a person where you're not scared of the work. Thomas Edison had a very interesting phrase. He says, a lot of young people miss out on opportunity because it typically shows up in overalls, which means that folks are scared of doing the work. But if you do the work, it's just been my own experience that I've learned, and it's proven successful. Based on this law of cause and effect that I live by. When you make a cause, you get an effect. I've been able to sustain and live a life where I'm living my dream. Everything I do now is in the creative space. Why? Because I've done the work, especially early on. A lot of folks want to look at that quick thing, they do one thing and all of a sudden all the riches come. And those stories are very far and few between. You do get the overnight successes. But the majority of folks do the work. But it's okay. To do the work means that you're creating this character in yourself where you're just, it's grinding. You're just constantly grinding. And that's not, for me, I've learned to live this way, and I feel really successful. Why? Because I feel like I'm in control. I feel like I am in the driver's seat of my life. As long as I'm grinding, I'm making a cause for my life to look a certain way down the future. And personally, I feel really good about that. So the thing that I've learned is not to be afraid of the work, not to be afraid of the work. Do the work, enjoy it, and I think the more that I do the work, the happier I am, even though sometimes it gets lean and I'm waiting for checks to come in and got to pay some bills. But I also know that if I continue to always do the work, no matter what, I develop this inertia in my life that, I'm not looking back. I'm always looking forward and making cause. And then, stuff starts to take care of itself, back of me, like the bills get paid, the money comes in, and I'm able to do what I got to do. But I'm not sitting around looking back. I'm always looking forward and doing the work. And that was a huge lesson that I learned, and it keeps me going every day.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack there. Like you said, when you look back too, you're not seeing where you're going, and you're going to be thrown off of your road, right? I don't know if you've ever done this. I know I've done this plenty of times, by mistake, where, I'm looking over and I'm driving and I see like, oh, well, there's an accident, or, that tree looks really nice. And then when I go back to look at the front, I'm almost in the other person's lane and I'm almost running into the guardrail. Right. But, that is the same thing that what happens in our lives, right? If we're not focused on where we need to go, then we can kind of go askew in our route and our journey. And then we got to get, locked back in and get back on the road. But you also mentioned that point of people being afraid to do the work. And I want to bring up 2 points. Number one, when we do the work, you can equate this to the same people that are in the music industry, right? When you look at industry plants or people that shoot up so quickly into that stardom and they get that money, ultimately there are a few cases that this doesn't happen, but ultimately they shoot just back right down just as fast. So just be wary of that and cognizant of that as well. And then number two is that when you are building and you are doing the work, you have the skills and what things are supposed to happen in your life or how things are supposed to operate. So number one, if you have those skills, you're just developing and making yourself more valuable to other people. And number two, that if something is happening underneath your nose and that's not supposed to happen, you're able to catch those pitfalls, or somebody trying to scam you, or they're not doing the best of their ability in your company or your business. You're able to spot that a mile away. So there's so many important lessons that we need to learn of doing the hard work that we can grasp, as that when we're going through everything, whether it's good or bad, up or down, we know that we are not going to get fooled and what it takes to achieve that ultimate success as well. So
I just want to share I remember when the pandemic hit back in 2020. Just like everybody, we all were home, so the internet became our best friends. You know what I mean? Watching YouTube and stuff like that. So I used to watch a lot of Facebook videos, and I ran into this singer. His name is Teddy Swims, and I caught him because he did this cover by Michael Jackson's "I Want to Rock with You." And I was like, this dude can sing. He was a very odd-looking guy, but look him up. His name's Teddy Swims. But he was just kind of doing covers. He had a couple songs that he wrote, But you know what? Every week he would come out with a new video. Every week he would come out. He was just constantly grinding, doing that work, putting these videos out. And he did this for a number of years. And he developed an audience over the years. So much so where now he's got a record out on the radio. I was like, and they're playing his song. They're playing his album. It's like I watched this guy do the work 4 years ago, and he just kept grinding. And finally he came out with an album, and now his songs are being played on the radio. Not just like Q102, but so many different radio stations, because his music crosses over. And I'm like, wow. I watched it happen right in front of my eyes. Somebody doing the work, and now they're becoming successful as a result. So yeah, do the work, man. Do the work, and don't be scared of it. Just jump in and do it.
Yeah, and then the only reason I guess a few reasons that we might be scared, but the one that jumps out the most is that, we're scared to fail. But as we all know, you have to start in order to refine your practice or your skills, and then you can avoid that failure to the best of your ability. And then number two, another thing that we might be afraid of is other people making fun of us. But as we all know, I'm going to use the gym example for this. When you see somebody that's lifting 1,000 pounds, right? Nobody can really lift 1,000 pounds. But anyway, if you see somebody lifting that much weight, they're never going to look at somebody that's doing less than them and look down on them. They're going to say, all right, well, this person's grinding along the way. It's always the other people that can't do as much as you can do that are going to criticize you. And it's the same thing as well. Like when you are bettering yourself and bettering your life, you will attract those mentors and those people that will guide you to the better route or the easier route, and to give you the lessons that you do need. So you're only going to attract higher quality and higher caliber people along the way as well. So don't be afraid of it. And there's so many payoffs and so many lessons and greater things that we learn following our journey and following our dreams versus not doing it and living in a state of, wow, I wonder what could have been. So, and David, we only have a few minutes left as well. So let's talk about where people can go to reach out to you. And I know you said the best place is humanitypictures.com. So I'm going to share that with everybody as well. But talk a little bit about, what Humanity Pictures is.
Sure. Yeah, it's Humanity Pictures Online, humanitipicturesonline.com. It's a production company, full-fledged production company. We do stuff from script to screen, whether it's helping to create the content, whatever it is that you need. To advertise, whether it's your business or idea. I tend to drift more into the documentary space. There are some clients that I work for, like one of them, the Ahmad Butler Foundation, Patriot Fund, and a lot of that I've done videos for. The city of Camden, I've done a lot of work for them, and which has actually been a dream of mine. But I really want to move more to the documentary space, and I want to actually start creating my own content as well, like writing TV shows, movies, or whatever it is. So, but yeah, we're a full-fledged production company, and we can do stuff. We've got the equipment, we've got the talent, I've got the people that are ready to go. But that's what we do. We create films of impact, and tell stories of impact. So yeah. And you just go on my webpage, you'll see all my social media stuff that you can reach out, the phone number to contact me at, email to email me at. You can send me an email through the website if you like, but all the stuff is there.
Yep, and here it is too. I mean, you've done so many pieces and productions along the way, over 2 decades of experience, which is absolutely incredible. Just that you have that longevity and such success in your field as well. And I know I could stay here and look at all this all day. So let me stop right now, because I know I'm going to get very distracted. Just really diving into it, because I know that it's something that I love, because we create content with purpose and enlightenment as well. So finally, I know that rejection is such a huge piece in your field as well. So if there's somebody out there that really is having a hard time with rejection, or rejection is also related to bullying, right? So maybe they're being bullied, rejected, or just not feeling the best that they can feel. What advice would you have to give for them in order to get out of that space?
I think, for me, my faith has been huge. And also having people in my environment that I can lean on and get encouragement from. There's no secret. Sometimes it hurts. The rejection hurts. You want something so bad it doesn't happen. But the key is to develop a kind of life where you never give up. That's the key. If you can develop through your faith, through the people around you, this life condition where I will never give up, then you could always pick yourself back up. You'll find a way to pick it. I've been built over the years to never, even if I wanted to give up, I can't give up. You know what I mean? That's just the way that I've been built over my 58 years. If you can find a way, something to help you develop that spirit that no matter what happens, I'm not going to be defeated. That to me is the ultimate victory. That's the ultimate victory. We look at the end result as the victory. It's not. The victory is living a life where you're never defeated, no matter what happens. That's the true victory. Because then you'll always be on the winning side. You know what I mean? Because you always give yourself a chance to win. But it's when you give up, that's when there's no winning there. But if you can develop this life condition where I will never give up, you will always, always live a winning life.
I love that. So everybody, I think that is the perfect place to wrap up this episode on Weekly Dose of Dano TV. And David, I do appreciate you so much because I agree with you 100%. You defined all of your winnings and all of your losses and goods and bads. You have totally summed up everything and have put a positive message and a positive meaning on it, which I think we need to do more often in every single facet of our life. Because as you said, if you're always winning and you're always learning and you're always gaining something from it, then how have you lost or how will you be defeated? It just doesn't make sense. It can't happen. So thank you so much for sharing that, for sharing all of your golden nuggets here on Weekly Dose of Dano TV. I told you, everybody knew it. This was going to be a great episode. I had so much fun. We've learned a lot, and we have the comments here. We have Jeanette with the red hearts. We have Lou says, great message, amazing show as always. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And the next week, we actually have a super special guest coming on. So make sure that you check out our social media throughout the week at Dose of Dano right here to see the different hints that we'll, kind of put out to you guys so you can come back next week and you could just really enjoy all of this great content here on Weekly Dose of Dano TV. So thank you so much to the Positivity Posse for watching, for being here. Thank you, David, so much again for being here, being transparent. To our sponsors, great success, and It Takes a Village Housing. We appreciate you all so much. And finally, be safe, everybody. Have a great weekend. And please put into practice some of the things that we talked about today. Like David said, change your definitions on what is a success and what is a failure, what's good and what's bad. Because when we redefine and have a new belief system about the things that are happening in our lives, well, life has no choice but to put a positive meaning and give us positive things back if we decide that's what we need to do in our own lives. So there it is, everybody. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week for another episode of Weekly Dose of Dano TV. Peace, everybody.